Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sidelined, the podcast to get your fix while sports are in limbo. Here are your hosts, Abby Labar, Carlin Baith, and yours truly, John Root.
Ladies and gents, welcome back to another episode of Sidelined, and we have a very unique guest this week, and we're so thankful that he joined us, but holy cow, we covered all of the ground with him, and we have a ton to talk about. We want to make sure we fit in that entire interview, so who do we have this week, guys?
Well, spoiler alert, we talk a lot about Nintendogs. A little bit of Call of Duty. We try to convert Abby to a gamer. And then, John, I'm going to keep passing the torch because you're the man who reeled this man in. And wow, what a great personality he was to have on the show.
Well, it's so fun talking to somebody that is in this realm that I don't really fully understand, and maybe some of our listeners don't understand. So when we throw out a gaming console, he knows this, that, and the other thing about it. Just like we've talked to people in the NBA and the NHL and so many other sports, this is something that's taking off. Esports is huge. It's a huge moneymaker. These athletes are huge brands, and Arda Ocal is someone that is just taking ESPN Esports to another level. So he's such a great guy. He's been a great mentor to me over the years, and I think everyone's really going to enjoy this. So fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Would you look at this? We have a new guest, and he didn't wear a black hat like us, so obviously didn't get the memo, but he is the Swiss Army knife of ESPN Esports. Arda Ocal, welcome to Sidelined.
It's very good to be here. Abby and Carlin, I don't know how you carry John through these podcasts, but we are thankful for it.
Our arms are tired. No.
He's not as heavy as you would think he is.
Yeah.
Been
All
working
in
out
the
a lot
hair.
during quarantine.
It's all in the hair, really.
That's the best
All
part.
the
I
weight.
can't believe John is actually wearing a hat. If there's one thing to celebrate him for, it's the hair. And he's
Exactly.
hiding it.
We literally all got on and we were like, what are the odds all three of us had on a black hat today?
Unreal.
Well,
Unreal.
You do not want to see what's going on down here. I need a haircut. So
Wait,
people are
can we
not gonna
see
be
it?
jealous.
What?
Do we
Oh,
do?
no.
Can
Take
we
it
take
off.
the hat
We
off?
need to see.
Man.
Hold
Alright,
on,
we'll
hold
do-
on.
Yeah. We need
Alright.
YouTube
Oh, come
views. We
on.
gotta bring the viewers over. Let's see the hair.
3, 2,
Dun,
1.
dun.
Oh my God, he
Oh,
shaved
the
it.
Wow.
Flow is still flawless.
Dude, you look amazing.
This looks like just some hay on my head. This is a disaster zone.
No
We
way.
We talk about John's hair more than anything else on this podcast, and that's the first look we've ever gotten of it without any fixtures to it, and it's still beautiful.
It was beautiful. What the hell?
Anybody that's like half, even a shade balding is looking at John being like, screw that guy.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah, we need some sponsorship. So if there's like Garnier Fructis out there,
That's the first one you go to. I love it. Actually, who
Now
might
we know what
he uses.
Garnier
Smells so
Fructis
good.
as well.
But Arda, enough about my hair. Let's talk about you. How are you doing during this time? I'm sure esports, a lot of people are just digesting a ton of that content online, and it probably makes you pretty busy. So what have you been up to?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I've looked at this. I know that it's very tough to look at it on a positive lens based on everything that's going on. But from the social distancing, staying at home perspective, I've been very lucky. I honestly have. We have a newborn at home, so like I've had ample time to spend with
Congratulations.
her. Thank you.
Congrats.
So it's been very fun from that end to be with her all the time, and also esports, like you says, ramping up a lot. So having the system here, and shout out to Carlin who helped me with my audio, and I sound impeccable thanks to her. It's all thanks to her, honestly.
You
As
did
can
the
see,
work,
we rock
though.
the same microphones, and we have the same mixer and everything. It's awesome.
You
But
did the work. You did the work.
we sound great.
We do.
So
John and Abby, on the other hand,
Did they
I
just
guess.
take shots at us?
more so John. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, but like esports, I mean, the thing is that a lot of, I mean, even ESPN, you can see on TV, like there's a lot of esports content, gaming content, and that bubble is one of the many that I operate at ESPN, and that just hasn't stopped. So, it's been fun, honestly. Like I enjoy it a lot. I'm a big gamer nerd myself, and I guess the intersection for hockey and gaming for me is that I do the NHL Gaming World Championship, which also hasn't stopped, and that's been a lot of fun too. So, yeah, I mean, look, I have no complaints personally. It's been, I mean, obviously everybody has struggles, going through what we're going through, but looking at it as a positive, I've been happy to be home.
So I'd love to go back. You started your oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Your broadcasting career covering a number of different sports in Canada, and then you all of a sudden you make the jump to esports for ESPN. What was there an in between during that time? I mean, I just want to know how you go from covering hockey, WWE, a bunch of other sports to esports, because that's a unique kind of path for somebody. So give us some background on that part of your journey.
So the short answer is I went to college for what most people who want to get into broadcasting go for, and that's I got a degree in mathematics.
What?
So then, but while I was there, I did like the local radio station, and like I wasn't a big partier. I wasn't the guy to go out with the boys or whatever on Saturday nights. I was more the guy that went to the local newspaper and like learned how to edit.
The mathematics people don't party? Is that, I feel like you would party the hardest. Like I feel like you would, I don't know. No, maybe I feel like that would be like, you don't know those mathematics majors.
If there were math parties, yeah,
hard.
I guess there's a segment that's like, yeah, hardcore math parties. Their biggest party was on Pi Day, March 14th. They were very proud. 1:59 p.m. they'd serve pie in the math building, and it was like the biggest event of the year.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess in that sense, sure, that was a party. But yeah, so I spent time at the local radio station and newspaper, and then basically the short story is then I did the whole public access Wayne's World kind of thing where I went to the public access channel. I had a regular job. Like when I say regular job, you know what I mean? Like I was a project manager for a few years, and I basically nights and weekends I'd spend there learning how a camera works. And I just was very interested. I didn't realize that it was something that I was going to eventually want to pursue as a career. It was just more a hobby, honestly. I just cared. I was just like, I'm very interested in this stuff. I want to know how television works. So I just went and asked questions, and they let me do it because I had a driver's license. That was my big in. I had a driver's license, and I can drive their community cruiser van. Just like, you know what? Carla, I'm sure you've done many events with Bailey, for example. They had a mascot, and I had to go to events and basically like set up tents and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
They had the Bailey mobile.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. It was we called it the community cruiser. So we went to events and set up tents and handed pens and 5K runs or whatever, blah blah blah. So I did that for a few years, and then finally I told them that I was interested in sports, and there happened to be an opening with the OHL. Back in the day. So I did the OHL. That's where I got my like hockey start. So I started with the Brampton Battalion that no longer exists. They moved to North Bay. Yep. So I did that for several seasons, and that was like a car wash. That was the best experience I ever got because I was doing hosting. One week I'd do interviews between the benches. The next week I'd do play-by-play. It was crazy. It was like I should not be holding these positions for these games. I even did color commentary at one point. Like, who the hell am I to do color commentary? I didn't even get to like junior A hockey.
That's the best though.
Because I played hockey as a kid and I'm Canadian. I'm good enough to do color commentary.
You qualify in the OHL just
the
by
Kings are hiring,
that
right?
base
I'm just
level.
gonna go in and take
off all the boxes.
Yeah.
Right? I had to do lacrosse play-by-play for the student station at NC State, and I had never seen a lacrosse game in my entire life. I was like, hey, but it's the best. You get the experience, right?
And that's what I credited for. I'm like, this was a great meat grinder, like to learn everything on the air. So I did that for a few years. There's a Mississauga team back in the day, the St. Michael's Majors. Now they're the Steelheads. The Ice Dogs as well. They changed a bunch of names, that city. I don't know why, but they did. But I did a bunch of those games as well. And then I would drive around. I was like similar to being a Swiss Army knife now. I was for hire. So like Ottawa, the 67s need somebody for a game. They were within the Rogers family. Yeah. So I drive to Ottawa for a 4-hour drive there and back to do a game for them. Or like, then I moved on from the OHL to the AHL. So I did the Marlies for a few years.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that's where I really got my like chops, where I was doing like hosts for the games there. And then all the while, I was a big pro wrestling fan growing up. Carl, I think you know a thing or two about that.
For sure, dude.
And I'm really sorry. I'm not Carl and I have never met in person, and I really feel like I'm very Carlin focused here. Abby, I'm sure that we're going to find a lot of things we have in common.
It's fine.
I'm really sorry.
And I know a few people in professional wrestling as friends and like outside of the company or whatever. And I also watch it, and I consider myself at this time a fair weather fan just because I'm I'm not as active as I was since everything in the pandemic and all the stuff that's been happening in the world. But how do you go from like, hey, I love this, I love sports entertainment, I love this world, I'll work for it now. Like, is there like was that a hard decision for you? I don't know how I couldn't do it. I don't know. It's very brave of you.
I wanted it. I
Yeah.
chased it, and I'm happy it happened. I'm also happy it's over. Afterwards I was just so burnt out. I'd been
Yeah.
like doing the independence and like all like the all the steps that I mentioned in sports broadcasting. I did the same thing in pro wrestling as well, and it was just by the end of it I was burnt out. I was like, I don't want anything to do with wrestling anymore, and I was happy to leave it. So going back into hockey was like such a breath of fresh air, and it was so
Yeah.
welcome. And honestly, starting maybe from this year's WrestleMania was when I really started to maybe watch a match here and there and keep up with old friends and things like that. But otherwise, like I don't have that same desire anymore. I think it's like completely out of my system. My wife always says is like I think the only time that I would probably go back into wrestling or watch it again is if my kid wanted to watch wrestling. I think
Yeah.
that would be the only time that I would care about it anymore. It sounds like sad, but it's not. Like I'm just content. But also, there's so much other stuff to watch, covering things for you. Like in the last 6 months, before the pandemic, since I started ESPN, I've been doing esports. I've been doing MMA, so hosting UFC events and things like that. I've been doing MLS, hosting MLS soccer events, and then wherever they slot me on different like segments and things like that. So like I don't have time to watch wrestling anymore because I'm watching so much other stuff that I got to be prepared for so much that like there's not really much time to if I'm gonna unwind and watch something, it's gonna be Tiger King over pro wrestling. Although Tiger King kind of in a way is pro wrestling, so
I want to know this. They
Okay.
still give you a stage name.
Yes, they do.
So what
How
what
did
is
that
the
happen?
story? Yeah, like okay, so your stage name was Kyle Edwards. Like
It
no
was.
offense to all the Kyles and all the Kyle Edwards out there, but
Oh,
like
it's a terrible
Arda Ocal is such a cooler name
It's the
than
worst name in
Kyle
history.
Edwards.
I
Like
went from
how do you go
I
from
went
Arda
from
to Kyle?
I went from the most ethnic name in pro wrestling to the least ethnic name in pro wrestling. Yes, that's true. That's correct.
So
How
what's
did that
the
happen?
story?
Okay, how did that happen? Well, I'll tell you the story. Yes. So WWE does that to pretty much everyone. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe now more so. You have an opportunity to keep your name, but usually they will change your name for multiple reasons. One of them being they want to own the name. So like you can't go and market yourself as they put all this marketing arm behind you and exposure. If you leave WWE or they release you, you can't go use the name elsewhere. Totally understand that part. The second reason is they like names with a certain formula. Look at other announcers. There's Josh Matthews and Tom Phillips and Justin Roberts. These are names that have been either current or former announcers. You're noticing a pattern. It's two first names with an S at the end. So I knew that going in. I even felt like sometimes only the first or only the last name changes. That happened a lot. Like Tony Luffman on NHL Network used to be Tony Dawson in WWE, for example. And Renee Young, who I worked with a lot in Canada, fantastic person, was Renee Paquette in Canada. So like I knew that when I got there, my name would change, and I was totally fine with it. I was like, this was a job that I've wanted for a very long time. I cared a lot about pro wrestling. I'm fine with my name changing. How it happened is a whole other story altogether. So I worked for the international department, great department, lovely people. And one day my boss came to me and said, we need to put together a list of names for you to have. Think of some names that you would want to be in WWE. So with that formula in mind, and also thinking they also WWE also loves alliteration, I thought of a bunch of random names, like Ryan Randall or like something Smith, like just very generic names that I thought, okay, I'd be comfortable with this name. I also thought like my parents are from Turkey, so I tried the last name Turk on a lot of the names. So I wanted that to be like my little like sort of stamp of my personality
Your homage
or
to,
my homage to the
to your
So I thought
family.
that would be enough. Maybe I could get away with it. I get to the international department, and apparently the producers were also asked to put together names, and their names were absolutely ridiculous and terrible dumpster fire of lists. There was
Give us an example.
Armin van Buren was on the list. Ray Donovan was on the list. I think there was one like Zipper McFly was on the list.
Yes.
No.
Like, obvious, like names. I'm like, yeah, hi, I'm Zipper McFly here in WWE Raw, and joining me at this time is John Cena. Well, thank you, Zipper McFly. My match against The Rock. Like, are you kidding me? Give me a break. Like, they didn't take it seriously at all. Okay, like it was dumb names, awful. So the story, as I heard it, was this list that they brought it down to a few that they liked. They sent it to, and apparently it goes. Every decision, many of them go to Vince McMahon himself. This is the story that I've heard from 3 different people, so I'm just going to believe it to be true, even if it's not. He has his hands in everything. He's very like, the buck stops with me. Like, that's really one of the reasons the company's been so successful for such a long time, right? So as I heard it from 3 different people, so I'm going to choose to believe it. He looks at the list and he scrolls down. And he's like, oh, everyone has a Vince impression, by the way, too. Oh, God. I don't like any of these names, God damn it. These names are terrible, God damn it. You're all fired, God damn it. Something like that. Probably you didn't like the names. So then apparently he looks at the list and he's like, we don't have any Kyles in this company right now. And so the first name was set. He's like, we don't have any Kyles, which means it's something Vince says, everyone takes it as like supreme gospel. So like, okay, I'm Kyle. There's no second thought on that. Kyle is my name. Whether I liked it or not, I am Kyle. That is it. So my boss comes to me and goes, all right, so your name is going to be Kyle. We have landed on Kyle Richards. This is going to be your name. Your name is going to be Kyle Richards. Don't change your social media yet. You can tell your friends and family, but that's going to be your name. Wait for my word. So I text my friends and I text my family. I think Carla knows where I'm going here. Texting my friends and family. So 5 minutes later, I get a call from my boss again, who's like, all right, we got to change of plans. We did a little Google search. You're not Kyle Richards anymore. Kyle Richards is a Real Housewife on television. So you can't be Kyle Richards anymore. We're changing your name to Kyle Edwards. So I went from Real Housewife of, I don't know where, Atlanta or somewhere, to Kyle Edwards NASCAR, basically.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
Oh my God.
Funny. That's a nice little scoop, though, on how the names, it sounds like most people kind of make lists of what they might want. And
so like, okay, like let's say the 3 of you, let's say the 3 of you got signed to WWE. Yeah. I think John would have the best bet of keeping his full name. I would guess.
John Root. Yeah.
John Root just sounds like a very, like John Root sounds like a very like emphatic. I'm John Root.
Yeah.
And I can see Vince McMahon being like, John Root, God damn it, what a great name he's got. Look at that head of hair, God damn it. Don't ever put a hat on it.
I love that.
I'm here, Vince. Let's do this.
Maybe that's John's route. Maybe he goes WWE route.
Yeah.
John.
I mean,
that. You got the name.
I feel all 3 of you would have a good chance.
You would be a really good WWE host.
I
hire him, Vince. Vince, are you listening?
Yeah. Hire John.
We were talking about all the different things that you're into, and I was trying to find the right words for it, because with esports, wrestling, and hockey, that's like my trifecta. And I was trying to say, I don't want to sound like a dork and say like that's a dork or nerd stream. But it so is, and Abby came up with a better way to say it, because I don't want to be like, I'm a dork. Abby, how are we phrasing it?
It's either John underappreciated or underrated. I like underrated.
Underrated. Like you are living the dream, covering 3 of the most underrated things in all of like sports, whether it's digitally or on television. Like that's like the absolute trifecta. So
well, let's clarify that though, in America, because let me give you do you want to know what my biggest culture shock was?
What?
So I grew up in Canada, then I moved to America 6 years ago. The biggest difference between sports coverage in Canada and America is in America, you might get 1 or 2 highlights, maybe a segment of hockey on national television, right?
Or zero.
Or zero.
Honestly.
Yeah.
in Canada, you could have a fourth line trade rumor for the Arizona Coyotes or any team. Fourth line rumor, and it would lead the sports segments. It would be front page news.
It was like whenever we have a game there, whenever the Kings are playing a Canadian team and we're in the city for a few days or whatnot, it's like TMZ is just running and only covering hockey. Like that's what it is up there. I'm eating breakfast, like watching, like what did Austin Matthews do with his dog this weekend? Like it's unbelievable. So
I can tell you what any Toronto Maple Leaf player did with their dogs, or what breakfast they had between the years of 1990 and 2007. I can tell you no problem.
Oh yeah.
Wendell Clark had a nice poached egg before Game 6 of the. But that's the detail that people love in Canada. It's crazy. It really is.
Oh, so
their media travels like crazy too, because every time there's a Canadian team in town, it's like clear the locker room, like make as much room as you can, because everyone and their mother is coming that works for any sort of media publication that covers the team. Like it's crazy.
It's the number one concern by far. Number one concern, and it's almost ironic that I was thinking about this the other day. Like, no Canadian team has won since '93, right? In particular, the Leafs haven't made the Stanley Cup Finals since '67 when they won it last.
Brutal.
But just think about if the Leafs were to win the Stanley Cup. Just imagine. I know that none of us work for the Leafs organization here, but just imagine if the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup this year. Let's say hockey comes back, there's the hub cities, and the playoffs go on, and the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. And there's nobody in the arena to celebrate it.
Yeah.
And a parade would be in jeopardy. Like, it would be the most Toronto thing to ever happen.
Yeah.
It would be like the most appropriate storyline for the Leafs to win the Stanley Cup this year under everything that's going on.
All that it would do would erase the memory of losing to the E-Bug from Carolina. Like that's all this year would do if the Leafs won the cup. It wouldn't like forward the motion of like, yes, finally. Like I feel like fans would be like, this would happen to us, of course, of all the years, and we can't even celebrate. And that's all it would do is just erase the E-Bug memory. That's it.
Why?
Oh my
gosh. That's such a weird, like, who? That was one of the best stories of the year. Like, why are people so uptight about it?
For Canes fans. For Canes fans, I feel like.
Canes fans love it.
Oh, whatever, though. There are people in Toronto happy for the guy, too. I mean, like, yes, I get it, but, like, come on, stuffy hockey fans, grow up. This is a great story.
Yeah, it's the best story. One of the best.
Because it happened to Toronto. That's why. Because it happened to Toronto.
Yeah.
and in Toronto.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Arda,
I just love that scene, man. Sorry, anyway.
No, all good. All good. Taking some of your history that we talked about and how you were kind of doing different things in different places and kind of getting involved with media and loving the TV station stuff and the radio station stuff and throughout college and whatnot. How have you utilized all of that love for that kind of tech and then now implemented it into your at-home work lifestyle now? Like, have you been building for this moment all your life, does it feel like? Or do you feel like at home in your at-home studio? In a way, am I asking that right? You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah. I mean, I was the guy to build. I was the kid that built my own computers for sure. I was constantly tinkering with my PCs and, early adopter of video games. I was just a giant nerd growing up. I was the kid, like you said, that loved hockey, that loved pro wrestling, and was a big video game guy, always tinkering with technology. I was a big fan. So I was lucky enough that my parents supported me in that, in the sense that, like, if I wanted to, I wouldn't, I got one computer and then I would always save or like, do chores and things like that, like try and get as much as I could to like save up for like a disk drive or something like that. You know what I mean? Like those were the things that I was constantly after. And then I would, in my teenage years, I'd get a job as a cook somewhere like a McDonald's or something, so I can save up money and buy a better PC so that I could game on it, that kind of thing. Right. So that was definitely always investing. So I was always keeping tabs on things going on. So in a way, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely got help with the home setup here, like a good advice from people and things like that. And also I have done a ton of research on the video side of things because I wanted to buy a camera that we could also take good pictures with. So I was like, figuring out what kind of DSLR camera should I know we're getting deep in the weeds here, but like
What'd you
what
get?
I did realize I got a Canon EOS 90D.
Oh,
Saved up for it, bought it. Yeah. And the reason I did is because it lasts long. Also, it looks good on stream, but it takes beautiful pictures.
Yeah. That's a good choice. No, it does look good. Definitely looks
But I also learned that like no camera, John, like no camera is good unless there's good lighting. That if you don't have good lighting, then your camera's like, even if you have $1,000 camera, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this goes back to you're talking about, I talked to Carlin about this camera or this setup. And the years we've gotten to know each other, you are so well connected. You're grinding all the time. You're thinking a few steps ahead. And constantly, I know when I first reached out to you, like, hey, just a guy working in San Jose as an in-arena host. Would love to chat with you a little bit more about this.
Did we all do in-arena hosting?
Yeah.
I did it for the Devils.
Wait, you
did it
did
for the
too?
Kings? Oh, yeah. No, I did it for the Devils.
Do you know how many guests we've had on here? And we do our research before that have like surprised me with being like, I was an arena host too.
Yeah.
And guys, listen to the people listening. We don't do this on purpose, but that's I guess that's the I guess that's why we have the network we do, because at some point everyone's got the in arena vibe thing going on.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Best live TV experience or best experience to prep you for live TV in the world is what we all kind of come to the conclusion with.
It's very, very, for sure. Especially oftentimes when you have an in-ear and you can hear an echo between what's in the audience and what's in your ear. The absolute worst. And trying to talk through that, if you can master that, you're ready for pretty much anything.
Absolutely.
Also, mascots are the worst.
Don't tell Carlin that. Her and Bailey are like married.
Yeah. What did you give us?
I said that specifically for NJ.
Yeah.
I said that specifically for NJ. NJ is.
Who hurt you?
He's a dude.
Who hurt you?
Who hurt me? Yeah, exactly. Which mascot is it? No, I'm kidding.
I'll send Bailey right now.
I will. I will say this. I don't know if this is too inside baseball. So who does the and who plays NJ? He's great. Like he's great with kids. Like he does a terrific job in the games. He was also the mascot for the Patriots.
Wow.
And he they won a Super Bowl and he has a Super Bowl ring.
No.
That's so cool.
It's like a good party favor. So he'll go to like bars and he'll just be like, he'll just raise his fists like this, and it'll have the Super Bowl ring on it, and everyone will be like, whoa!
Who's this guy?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that's a really cool party trick, I gotta admit.
For sure. For sure.
Wait, so we never got how'd you get into esports? I'm so curious.
Yeah, so,
we went off on a tangent.
Here I am exposing mascot secrets.
Thank you.
Okay, so
we'll beep his name out too. John, you can put a beep over it, right?
Yeah. Bleep out his name. Bleep out his name. Yeah, exactly. So esports. Back when I was like, honestly, like this is year 20, I think, of doing something in broadcasting in some way, like either volunteering or being on the air. So like back then, like there was no esports, right? Like competitive gaming here and there, maybe people had like some local tournaments or something playing, video games, maybe a Tetris tournament or a Super Mario tournament or something like that. But like, it wasn't like the industry that it is today, right? So I didn't even think it was an option. So not like it was, it wasn't an option. So I pursued something else. Like so like I did hockey. The opportunity came up to work at a Canadian sports channel. I did that for a few years. Then I did a couple other things in between, and then WWE came calling. I worked there for a couple years, and then after that, that's where I landed at MSG Networks. And around that time, so we hosted a hockey show, and I did it for a couple seasons. It was a blast, loved it. Did some Devils broadcast, Rangers broadcast at the same time. Then did the Devils and arena hosting too, and then that's where I did my first esports event. So by then, esports was growing, and the first event that I ever did was for a League of Legends World Championship event. The semifinals were at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
And and I walk in and I see these massive screens on the, the very famous ceiling that we all know at MSG, lined with 4 giant, biggest TV screens you've ever seen. And then the teams are below, giant logo and stage, sold out both nights during the week, Wednesday, Thursday. Unreal, like 20,000 people. What is it? 19,000 people sitting there watching this for several hours, and I was like, wow, I was blown away. And it was the first time I ever covered anything like that. And I was like, I need to get into this. This industry is going to be on the rise. Like, this is very, very impressive. So that was my first. Yeah.
What's the learning curve there? Because that it's so unique, and you're like, this is mind blowing. But then, how'd you prepare for that event? And then, as you continue to get into it, like, how do you, kind of find all the ins and outs and teach yourself everything that you need to know to cover that?
I treated it like a full-time job. I knew a month out that I was going to do it. And I told them straight up, I don't know much about this, but as a traffic cop, as we know, we tee up the analysts. So I knew at least I had enough experience in being able to coordinate everything on the air to feel comfortable enough to be in that position. So now it was the game knowledge. How do I tee up these people? So I treated it like a full-time job, 8 to 12 hours a day. I just watched footage and I took a bunch of notes and I talked to people, and I did that for every day leading up. And by the end of it, I felt, okay, I think I have a good grasp on how the history of this game, the storylines going into it, what matters, what doesn't, what are the things that people talk about the most. And I would say that was probably the event I prepared for the most and the longest in my career. And I'm glad I did, because it gave me a good foundation for the next several years. And the one thing about esports is, like, people think of esports as one singular thing. There are multiple games within esports, right? It's not just like hockey with several leagues. It is like Call of Duty League. That is a completely different game than League of Legends, which is a completely different game than Rocket League, than even the sports sims like Madden and NHL and FIFA, right? So all of those games have intricacies and really ecosystems where they have their own analysts. And rarely do you see those analysts often jump to different titles because those games are so nuanced.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in the sense that at ESPN and doing esports, as a traffic cop, I can be mile wide, inch deep, in the sense that I am okay at setting up the table for the analysts to give the best possible information that they can.
Do you play the games too? And if you do, does that help understand what to talk about and how to kind of tee them up, like you're saying?
Yes, I play as much as I can. Some of them I don't enjoy as much as others.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a big COD fan. I do enjoy COD. I know you play COD too. Yeah.
So good.
It's fun.
So good.
Oh God, here we go.
I'm 2.5 weeks in right now.
Abby, are you into gaming? Are you a gamer?
No.
You
Not
guys
at all.
need
No,
to
but
get
it's
into gaming.
Carlin's like loves
Yeah.
it. I played Call of. I was one of those people that when like Call of Duty came out, I think I was in high school, and like I wanted to try to be like all the other cool kids playing it, and I was like, I'm gonna be the chick that knows how to play COD, and like I played it like 3 times, and then like didn't
You have
know
to
what I
talk
was
like
doing.
that too.
Yes.
I had like the headset on, and they're like, "Oh, you're a chick." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." I was like, why am I doing this? I can't.
Fair enough.
I don't know how to do this.
Oh my God.
Carlin, we can nerd over Call of Duty on another podcast. We'll start our own Call of Duty hockey podcast.
Yes.
There are actually a couple of a few Call of Duty pros that are big hockey fans. So that's
And
cool.
there's a few hockey players who are big fans of Call of Duty.
Oh yeah,
So
100%.
definitely some crossover there.
Oh,
as well.
absolutely. Any celebrity tournament, you're gonna see at least 2 or 3 NHL players pop up because they absolutely love it. Yeah. Yeah, I do play the games, some more than others, especially if they're new. Like there's a new game now called Valorant, which is sort of like so it's like a CS:GO tactical first-person shooter. I've been playing that a lot because I want to learn the game, especially from the ground floor because it just started. So that's been a lot of fun.
What's Valorant like? It almost looks like a hybrid of like Call of Duty and Fortnite put together, because it's like kind of like it had some fantasy look to it, but also was, like you said, first person shooter, but like wasn't as like childlike looking as Fortnite is. Is it like a mix of both, or what is it like? I know it's so new, so
yeah,
I don't know anything about it.
The best way to describe it's like CS:GO, a Counter-Strike, a very, very popular game, one of the biggest esports out there. But it's more friendly in a way, like it's more family friendly in the way. Like I know that there's still like guns involved, but like you can turn blood off, you can turn bodies off. Like it's very, they did that specifically. Riot Games, who also made League of Legends, like they have the biggest esport in the world. They want this to be a globally accepted game, and we haven't had something like that in this genre. So that's a whole rabbit hole that we can
Call of
spoil
Duty
to
has
somebody,
has a setting. I'm sorry, John and Abby. I'm sorry. I sort of stop talking about video games after this. Call of Duty has a setting too where you can like disable some of the extra gore, but it's
Yeah.
still gory. Like I still am like, no, I blew up to pieces, and they showed a close up of it in slow mo. So, but it's like less bloody. But that part of the game is hard to be okay with. I feel like I get like nightmares sometimes. I'm like, oh my god, ooh. Like it's very graphical. So
That's
This
not for
stuff is
everyone.
so
No.
interesting to me, though. I mean, I was
is it?
talking to
I
Carlin
know,
and
I'm like,
Abby
that's
about
what
it
Sorry,
because-
was,
I didn't think
No,
I was
it
gonna
is,
Yeah.
nerd
it is
out this
super
much.
interesting, though.
The
Because
thing
for
is
me-
that like gaming is such it's a growing industry. That's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
people, especially NHL players, they're capitalizing on this time especially to be able to create brands for themselves. This is actually the perfect way for everyone that says that hockey players are boring and the culture is too stuffy. I feel like gaming is the perfect gateway for a lot of hockey players to be
For
able to
sure.
express themselves. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And I think that like the days of banning Fortnite on the road where we heard stories like that
Oh my
in the
god.
last couple of seasons, like
Yeah.
I think that that's going to die down. I think we're going to hear that gaming is actually a preferred way to unwind after going through a tough game or practice or whatever. Like it's actually a lot more, like it's actually more social than people think, like getting in, squatting up with your teammates or whatever. Like there's definitely an element there, and I think that people are going to express themselves very, very well.
John,
we
wasn't
t-
Biz saying that it was like a team building thing? Wasn't Biz saying
Yeah.
that, John?
Yeah, he was talking about it was a team building thing. And we've talked about on previous podcasts too, how these athletes, celebrities, even us as hosts, like sometimes even talking in front of a camera on an IG live, like it's kind of awkward. Like you're trying to figure out what to say. And then now you have sports, esports. And I was watching Devin Booker the other day, just
Yeah.
playing Call of Duty. And it was just super fun because he's the kind of guy, like, I don't really know too much what he's like live or in interviews, but like being able to play a game and somebody's watching that and he doesn't have to talk the whole time. And it just creates this different atmosphere and outlet for these athletes and celebrities that are just makes them way more comfortable and probably relatable because there's a ton of kids and people like us, like our age, like 20s, 30s out there that are playing these esports. And it's like,
Thanks
oh,
for
cool.
adding the
I'll spend some
30s
time.
there. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
that. It's very nice of you. Very nice of you.
So courteous.
There's like some of the best, like, okay, you want to talk like athletes that are really taking it seriously?
Yep.
Myers Leonard is like the perfect example that I point to. Plays for the Miami Heat. He is all in. Plays every day, streams every day, has done 24-hour streams. He is committed. Like this is something that he is. I would imagine that he would make this a full-time thing once he's done with basketball. It's something that he really, really, truly cares about.
Wow.
And and there's plenty in the NHL too. Like Evander Kane is a great example, actually. Like he's a big gamer, but he's also got a great personality. So like I could see him being somebody that really makes this successful. Zach Hyman plays for the Leafs. He's someone who invests in esports. He has an esports team. He has like
What?
players. Yeah, he owns an esports team of like Fortnite competitors, etc. Rocket League as well, I believe. That he owns teams that compete in esports. So like the investments or the actual streaming, it's out there already for sure.
I did not know that. That is incredible.
John, you were talking about speaking of the NBA, like NBA 2K recently, and you know how that's kind of blown up and stuff as well.
2K Players League that was or 2K Players Tournament that was on ESPN.
Yep.
I know I really wanted to ask you more about like how these broadcasts are being put together, because I know watching it I was like, okay, I enjoy seeing a Kevin Durant jump on there and play somebody else who they might be in Western Conference team versus an Eastern Conference team, so they usually don't see each other during the season, but now they're playing esports together. But there's this aspect where I was like, well, I kind of wish there was more of a host fielding questions from the audience and throwing that out to players and not really making the players have to be the host or the reporter and really have to be a huge personality behind this. So when it comes to esports broadcasts and something like the NBA 2K Players Tournament, where do you see hosts fit in, reporters, and how to make that exciting and engaging for an audience and for the players and celebrities?
What I love about John is that he's always fishing for a job, you know? It warms my heart that he's just like this is the gateway question into, and then like, I would be great for that.
He's a
John would be
content creator.
So I
Opportunity
think I know a guy.
creator.
Yes. Yes. John, you'd be so good.
Hire this man.
So that I wasn't a part of that broadcast at all. I covered it. I did a lot of coverage on it for written for the editorial website. But that was, I watched it along with everybody else, and I thought it was cool in the sense that, especially when they were engaged, like some players had history, so they were talking about their college days and things like that. Other players were really chirping back and forth, and that was always Patrick Beverley was a perfect example. Like, he was the most entertaining guy in the whole tournament because he was always in your face, like, yeah, take that, let's go, woo.
Great
He'd,
on
like,
and off the court.
you know what I mean? Yeah, like sometimes he'd pick the team that his opponent was on so that he could dunk on him with him, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was great. I love it from that. It's entertainment. At the end of the day, like, esports actually has more in common with like Broadway and pro wrestling than it does with actual sports, because it's like an entertainment thing, right? Like, that people want to be entertained watching video games. That's why we watch them, right? So that one was good. I hosted a Madden tournament that aired on ESPN, and that was a lot of fun because it was like celebrities involved. So we had people like UFC fighters, and we had a couple of NBA players, NFL players. Snoop Dogg was a part of it. He made it all. He actually is like really, really good. He made it all the way to the finals. Like, he's actually, I would say Snoop Dogg is the best celebrity Madden player.
Really?
Like, yeah. He's really, really good, and he cares. Like, the best parts were actually like afterwards, where we were like trying to reset shots and everything, and you would hear the two competitors talking to each other. Snoop Dogg would be like picking the brains of the NFL players, like, hey, what about this play? What about that play? Like, he was super invested. It was awesome. Yeah, he cared.
Izzle.
That's so cool.
John.
I saw something on Twitter about I don't know if this is like actually like a thing or a rumor, but I'm curious if you have the inside scoop. And a 2K like Legends game. So you have like Kobe and like MJ and like all the legends like as a part of like an NBA 2K like Legends edition. Is that like a legit, have you heard rumors about that, or was that just like somebody tweeting like a random idea? I feel like that would be really cool.
I think in order for that to happen, they'd have to go through all the rights and everything from the proper, whoever owns the rights to the, the retired players have to go to the families or them themselves. But, I think that would be a slam dunk. I think that people would love that. I would love to see Kobe on the cover of a future NBA 2K game, even a Legends edition, for sure. Yeah. I have not heard that rumor, but now that you mention it, I would love to see it. It has happened in the past. Like Michael Jordan has been part of the 2K franchise previously, but I think it'd be awesome for sure.
I saw like a tweet about it recently, and I was like, gotta ask Arda about that. Wonder if he knows anything.
Well, if I hear, I'll let you know. I that'd be really cool. I do know that Michael Jordan. You guys remember NBA Jam?
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Jordan was part of that game in the early release, but then was removed because that was like right around the time where he took himself out of the licensing agreements with the NBA. So he took himself out of the collective bargaining because he thought that he had more value by himself.
Wow.
So that's when he started getting, he got it all of his own deals and everything. So like, that's why NBA Jam doesn't have Michael Jordan in it. Not related though, the creator of the game was a big Detroit Pistons fan. And so he actually wrote code in the game. If you ever got into a scenario where the Pistons were playing the Bulls in the game and the Bulls took a last second shot to try and tie or win the game against the Pistons in particular, the shot would never go in.
Whoa!
That is so cool. What an awesome like little like fun fact to know. That's legit.
That's trolling.
So much shade. I love it.
Yeah, before trolling is like mainstream.
Yep.
Like,
that's like the perfect level of video game pettiness that I appreciate.
What else?
My boyfriend loves playing NBA Jam every time we go to like an arcade or something. He's like obsessed with it. So I'm going to make him do that when we go next time and have him like try to tee up that situation.
Yeah.
You may want to watch out because he might want to buy. So there's this company out there that's selling arcade machines now, like 3/4 of scale. They're called Arcade 1-Up. I promise I'm not being paid by them. They make these games to scale, and they just released an NBA Jam cabinet.
Ooh.
Yeah, you may want to take a look at that. Maybe or just cut this part out so he doesn't see it, and that can be like a future gift or something.
Christmas
or an
present.
idea. Yeah.
No, because I'd never see him again. So.
Oh, that's a good
That's all
point.
he'd
Yeah,
play.
you never ever see him again. Exactly.
What do you want people to know about esports? Because I know there's people like me that I enjoy watching it. Like most of the time, I'll go over to my buddy's place and he's playing COD or man, I'm trying to think of. There's like a few other games that I know, like roommates in college and over the past like few years since college that play these games that might have a good storyline to it, and I enjoy watching them play. And what do you want people to know about esports that might not have a gaming system and might not even really want to spend the time to try to get good at some of these games?
To me, the biggest thing is there's a big difference between competitive gaming and streaming. So oftentimes they mix, but most of the people that you know, the Ninjas, the Shrouds, the Courage, Dr. Lupo, the major names in streaming, those people are primarily content creators. They're primarily people that are playing the game for fun and for entertainment. Now, sometimes they might compete in tournaments, but usually they're not at the same level as like the very tippy top esports competitors that are signed to organizations and they're competing in tournaments. I guess the best way to describe it would be like playing for an NHL team versus being like Pavel Barber or Nasher or someone like that that's like creating hockey content, right? Like they're good at hockey, but they're not playing in the NHL, right? So
Right.
There's a difference there. And I think that a lot of people that don't necessarily know the gaming space, they look at Ninja and they say, oh yeah, he's the best esports competitor out there. He's actually the most prominent content creator that's out there. And he's very good at video games. And he definitely is like an exception in that he does try and compete, but he's definitely not at the same level as the very top esports competitors in certain genres. So that distinction is important because yes, you do see esports tournaments on streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube, etc. But that's different than even the NHL players or the athletes that will be streaming on a regular basis. They're doing it for fun and they're doing it for entertainment as a way to connect with their audience, just like content creators are.
Going off of that,
Yeah.
like we're all trying to figure out once we're going through like high school, we get to college, we're trying to figure out what our career is going to be. And a lot of people like me were just like, I would love to be a professional athlete. That's what I think of ever since I got out of the womb. I was like, I'm playing sports and I want to be a pro athlete. But I think there was a stigma for so long that's like, all right, kids, don't play too many video games. You're not really going to go anywhere with it. But now it's a big brand and there's the Ninjas out there. You can be a content creator. You can go in these huge tournaments and win. I can't remember how old the kid that won the Fortnite tournament
16.
was, but I don't know, 16 years old, winning a milli, like winning a ton
crazy.
of money. Like this is crazy.
3 milli actually.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Not bad, right?
It's
Not bad.
not bad at all. But now it's like, okay, mom and dad, like, yes, I still want to stay in shape and not just eat Cheetos and play video games all day. But there's something to this. I can actually do something as a career with this online and then eventually in the professional realm.
See, the thing is, the other thing that I'd love people to know is that that stigma's gone now. Like that is definitely an antiquated stereotype for gamers. Like professional organizations have like professional chefs and personal trainers and nutritionists that are on staff to help players be healthier, develop proper sleep patterns and treat it like a business. Like it's gone are the days where a lot of gamers still exhibit these kind of qualities, but gone are the days where at least at the elite level, those players are exhibiting that kind of behavior primarily, like especially with major organizations. They have these people in place to try and fine tune them to be the best they can be while competing because they want them to win, right? And that's how you win, by creating those good habits. So that's definitely a really good point, John, too. And I mean, for this is the thing, like for me, I feel like it's the new desired. I feel like people wanting to be broadcasters, I think that's on the decline a little bit. I think people wanting to be their own content creators and sort of their own stars in a way, to be able to be on YouTube or Twitch and streaming for an audience. I think that's where people are starting to dream, at least in later generations, right? So I think that the road in that sense, the barrier to entry is very low. It's not like it was back in the day where it was difficult to go to a TV station and try and sell your wares as a host, right? Now you can start. you can start. I mean, so long as your parents are cool with it, you can start streaming. You know what I mean? So it's the development that's the tough part. It's the consistency. It's the, how do I make myself unique over everyone else? What's the secret sauce? How do I market myself? How do I do this? Like, that's where the effort comes in. But the starting is not difficult. The barrier to entry is very, very low because everyone can do it. So long as you have the proper equipment to do it, you can do it.
What starts to separate people from entering this space and then continuing to succeed in this space? Because, you know, you went from working in studio, working on site, to working at home, and you curated the space that you're in right now with your microphone, your camera, and your lighting and all that, and you made it what it is, and you will continue to see success based on the quality of what you're doing now. Same thing goes for the people trying to break in, because a lot of this podcast is advice for people who are looking to get into this industry or the specific industry of the guests that we're working with. And what will separate those people from not only just entering this space, but like continuing to move on, maybe making the quality of higher quality, and then continuing to see success? Like, what does it take for those people?
John will tell you, I'm a big advice guy. Like, I love the just like the parsing of people's careers and helping them improve. Like, look at this, consider this. That's like the best. I absolutely love that stuff. So multiple layers to this.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, why am I qualified to talk about this? Other than the experience, I'm actually a professor at Iona College. So I teach sports broadcasting. So I have a lot of students where I didn't say that to boast.
Did you say you own a college?
No. Yes, that's right. I own the college. That's right.
Did I hear? Did you hear
right.
that?
No, Iona College.
I own a college.
I own
the college, Carlin. I actually, if you all want to be professors, I can hire you because I own the
that
college.
was not on our rundown in the Google Doc. That Arda
the most humble
Ocal
brag I've ever heard in my entire
college.
life.
I own the college, people. All right, let me just pick up all the brags that I humbly dropped. Yeah, exactly. But
sorry.
so those students ask me all the time.
I knew you were a professor. I'm sorry.
I love it. That's the best. Oh man.
Okay.
I love this. This is great. So those students ask me all the time, right? Like, they ask me, like, how do I make it? How do I get my first job? What do I do to get my foot in the door? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I tell them it's never been easier to get yourself out there, right? It's never been easier to push your brand and your personality to what you want to do. You want to be a play-by-play person? You want to be a hockey play-by-play commentator? You can literally take clips online and put your own voice on it and push it out there. I know at least 3 people that got jobs in esports by simply doing that on Twitter, and somebody discovered them and suddenly they blew up. Honestly, it's it's never been easier to push your stuff, to push your product out there. The problem is that people are not consistent with it, especially people streaming on Twitch. If you are a Twitch streamer, your number one commodity, the number one thing you should be adhering to is you need to be consistent. 100%. If you stream once a week, pick a day and pick a time. Just like a TV show. Honestly, I know that sounds antiquated, but people routinely will remember it.
You're right.
And the more you stream, the better it is. You can stream 3 days a week and say, I'm going to stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, right? And people will remember that and know. Podcast, same thing. Same day, every week, your podcast will drop. If you don't have that consistency and you're all over the place, then you're never going to give yourself the best possible chance to build. So that's the first piece of advice I give. And then the second piece of advice I give is, what are you doing to differentiate yourself from the next person, right? If all 4 of us went to apply for the same job, let's just say the host job for let's say Catherine Tappan moved on to a bigger and better things. Let's just say she's now the host of the Super Bowl or the NFL, and that NHL job becomes open, and we're all applying for it, right? Well, or people watching it are thinking of applying. Well, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself from the other hundreds of people that are going to be applying for that particular job? What makes you so different or so desirable or irresistible that they have to bring you in for an audition? You have to be thinking like that every single thing that you do. It's people often like put themselves into, oh, like maybe if I find the right person. It's not only that. It's you have to have, how they say like it takes several years to become an overnight success. Those people were ready for that moment, right? Like they had their elevator pitch and their package ready for that moment, and they knock it out of the park, because it's very rare, as we all know, to get that opportunity, because the jobs are few and far between, especially when you're talking about sports jobs, right? So you have to be ready. You have to know what your value proposition is. What makes you different? It's your personality. What are you bringing to the table? Like that's very important.
Yeah. Especially when the volume is so high, like you said, like it's so easy. And why Carlin asked that question, I love that question. It's so easy these days to start a podcast, to get on Twitch, to get on anything. It's literally at your fingertips, but it's like, okay, and then, the jobs are few and far between. So the volume is so high, but then it's like, how do you get where you want to be? And so I love that. That's great. And that's such a the consistency is a great piece of advice too. Cause
huge.
That's something I could do better with, like, on a daily basis. And
we could all learn from that, honestly.
That's like the number one thing. It really is. Like if you say you're going to be on at a certain time, the moment you breach that trust, people are just going to stop believing you. Like the consistency is so key. Like obviously there's some situations beyond your control, but the consistency is so, so key.
Well, you have to treat it like a regular job. Like, would you be late to your regular job? No. Oh, I'm going to be there at 9. Oh, just kidding. I'm going to come in tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
Or a hockey game.
Yeah.
Like if the hockey schedule comes out and they're like, all right, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. You're going to watch your Los Angeles Kings. And then we show up at 8 p.m., 8:15. Like people are going to be like, what?
Yeah, wait. Sorry, we can't start the Sharks game. John Root is not here yet to do the in-arena announcements. We have to hold on for 20 minutes.
They did that quite a bit, actually. They're like, hold on.
Those
Wes McCauley, don't drop the puck.
Yeah, the TV timeouts lasted for like 17 minutes as we're waiting for John to get into section 128 and do his read.
He gets his intermissions confused with his TV timeouts. Oh my God.
What are your funniest in-arena host stories? Do you guys have any?
God. I have too many.
Yeah.
I feel like I've shared a lot already on this podcast. Let me try to think of one that I haven't yet. Because there's some good ones.
One of my favorite ones is so Chico Resch is a former goaltender for the Islanders Devils, won a Stanley Cup with the Islanders, and he is now the radio color commentator for the Devils. Beloved guy, he's been there forever, and everybody loves him in New Jersey. And he's a ham, like he just loves. He had a segment called Chico Eats, where like he would just try things at the concession stand. He was like one of those like fun-loving guys. One of my favorite things was hosting the annual I forget the name of the brand, but it was a hot dog eating contest. So like at intermission, they would have like fans and Chico eating these hot dogs. And it wasn't like, can you eat more than Chico? That wasn't the gimmick. It was literally, he just wanted to be part of the hot dog eating contest. And this was as he finishes the first period, comes out of the radio booth, goes to the table, which is like all the way on the other side of the arena. So he has to bolt it from the radio booth to the table where the hot dog eating contest is happening, stuffs his face for like 3 minutes. So he's eating like 10 or 12 hot dogs or however many he's able to eat. He's probably dunking them in water like Joey Chestnut does.
Oh, God. My brother. Hey, that's coming up. Are they still doing the hot dog eating contest this year?
I don't know. Are they going to do a socially distanced one? I wonder.
My brother loves that. He's like in front of the TV, like ready for it, like every single year.
Joey Chestnut, man, the GOAT. He just blazes through them. And
talk
so does
about
Chico.
A career.
So Chico will eat all the hot dogs. I know, exactly.
Funny.
Chico will eat all the hot dogs, and then it'll just sit in his stomach. I always wondered this. Like it would just sit in his stomach. But calling that was like the best gig. It was so much fun because it's like you like ham it up. But oh my goodness, look at Chico. He's breaking the hot dogs in half. My God, those hot dogs have a family. You know, like channeling your inner JR or whatever. But then Chico would go back to the commentary, the radio booth, and then you call the second period like nothing happened. It's like, I just ate 20 hot dogs. No big deal.
How do you do that? That's amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That's
I
a
feel
good.
like
That's a good host story.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that. Nothing. I've got like my one go-to is I forgot what I was saying like the second time I was ever hosting. And
Yeah.
like we've talked about being booed in the arena before, and I just got like a couple of boos. Like it was like a boo.
You got
Like,
booed?
Who's this
yeah,
chick?
like but not Abby's been booed. And
I've been booed by an entire arena. That's
and-
different than just a couple.
Have you really?
booze.
oh yeah. So like
What, just for being there? Like
hers
just
is
because
Well,
different
of
than
no,
mine.
it-
Hers, yeah, go ahead. Yours
It was
is different.
more of a they were booing the game. There
Yeah.
was like a bunch of technical
Oh.
difficulties. They were booing the game
Not
more
her.
so than me. And I found this out later because everyone was like, "Don't worry, Abby, we were booing the concept, not you." I'm like, "Thanks, everyone."
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Meanwhile,
the
you're
rest
like,
the 17,000 other people thought the same thing. So I'm
So-
just
Yeah.
gonna go with that.
Can I tell you that's funny, by the way.
Yeah.
Can I tell you that so we have one, the games that we have to do, like the ridiculous like prize giveaway things.
Yep.
One of ours is a what is that called? The go whammy stop. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole. It's based off some game show. I forget the name of it, but basically there's like 9 options. Some
Yeah.
of them are dollar values, but 3 of them are like you lose everything. So they do that 3 times. So it's like you say go whammy, go whammy, go whammy, stop, and where you say stop, that's where it lands. It's like randomly the circles going around the screen.
Mm.
I always would tell the video production team, and they would never do this, to leave the contestant with nothing. Like the last one, they get to like $2,000, and then they lose everything. And I just wanted to be like, "Oh, sorry, you lost everything. Your
Yeah.
luck stinks. Back to the game." I think it'd be
Which-
hilarious.
Ruthless.
For our listeners, side little show business note. The contestant is always set up for success. The contestant
Yes.
will never actually
yeah.
lose.
It's
So
true.
that would be really funny.
Yeah.
but
I would
awful.
love it. Then
There
the
would be a lot of
contestant- yeah,
booze.
The contestant would be like, "What the hell just happened? I'm supposed to
Yeah.
win." Yeah.
Let's talk.
That's
Hold
always
on.
the-
Oh, go ahead. You go.
Well,
I go.
I think that's always the funny thing when we're up there is like we know the camera's going to be on us, our director's going to tell us, and it's going to go to the video board, and then everybody's not going to see us, but we want them to win. So there's so many times I think I got caught like telling a contestant like 17.
Yeah, like that's the answer.
Like it wasn't
Yeah.
sly at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
like you have your paper like this, and you're just sort of like cheating it out like this,
Yeah.
so they can see the answer that's
Yep.
clearly highlighted on your card.
The only ones we couldn't help with was like the sponsored, like you're gonna win a Toyota truck at the end of this, right?
Yeah.
So like we couldn't
Oh.
tamper with that at all, and you had to
The big
watch
money
people,
ones.
Like you had to watch people do their best, and you're just like, please win the thing. Oh my god, like holy crap. But yeah, the trivia ones and the other like simple ones, you are definitely like,
For legal reasons, we didn't help at all.
yeah, nothing. Oh my god, for sure. In arena hosting, man, those are
Love
good
it.
times.
But you're right. You're all right. It does prepare you for a lot.
Yeah.
It really does. And actually, it also helps endear you with the fan base, because once they get over the whole "who is this person," then eventually you start to earn their favor because they see you all the time, and then
Yeah.
you become a beloved figure. And actually that is a great launch pad for future positions, right? Like that. I started as an in-arena host with the Devils, and then that got me onto the Devils broadcasts because I had already curried the favor of the Devils fan base, right? So that was very helpful for sure.
And it's not often like you get to actually interact with your audience, which
Yep.
is such a huge like learning experience too, because then you can really get that feedback like right there, and they can tell you what they like, don't like, or you can go
They
by
can
the boos and
boo.
the cheers,
Yeah.
But that's such a rare thing that is so beneficial too. That's one of my favorite parts about it.
Oh wait, I do have one more story. There was one time, this wasn't a hockey game. This was an MMA event, like a local MMA event, maybe like 9 years ago in Toronto. I was doing the first time I ever used a t-shirt cannon. Do we all have t-shirt cannon experience? I'm sure we do.
God.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're all t-shirt cannon
all pros
experts
here.
here. Yeah, we're all pros here. We know. The first time I ever used a t-shirt cannon, there was one guy in the upper balcony, I guess like 200 level, that was like, give me a shirt. And I aimed at the guy, but I did not the shirt did not reach the guy. It got to the 200 level, but it hit like this lady that was beside him, like 2 spaces beside him, who was definitely not paying attention at all. Completely zoned out.
Oh no.
Not a
They need to
yeah.
They need to make everyone sign a waiver before they come to any sporting event that it has to do with the t-shirt cannon. It was LG Red, the one that got hit by one too.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
I think she got
was
hit
in a
with
game
one and
on
it went
the ice, and
viral.
I think a broadcaster was actually like aimed it towards her and just fired it at her.
Oh, like a
She's,
deliberate?
Deliberate. She face planted.
Wow.
Oh my
okay,
God.
that's not cool.
Poor LG.
Took it like a champ though.
We had her last week on our pod. I think she was gonna like start talking about it, and then she changed the subject or something. I think it was a pretty viral video, so I think most people knew about it. So funny.
The wound runs deep. I feel that.
Oh God, Carlin, what were you gonna ask before we started going on a tangent about t-shirt cannons?
I was gonna ask, for people who are looking for their dream jobs, and they have jobs like yours, Arda, that's just set in their mind, and they want to work to get there, and all they think about is that job. How beneficial is all of the work that they do before that, and what should people be targeting? Because in arena hosting, it's so underrated. We all talk about how underrated it is and how much experience you can get with a team, but what other careers out there can people target that will start small and get them working and get them doing all hands on deck, like your jobs in the OHL? What other things exist out there for people along their journeys to get to their dream jobs?
I'm a big component of always serve the dream. So every decision you make professionally should always serve whatever your dream is. Let's say your dream is to be an NHL play-by-play announcer. I'm just going to use that as an example. So if you want to be an NHL play-by-play announcer, then you should be making decisions such that you will get one step closer to that dream somewhere, somehow. So if that means I'm working for a team, well, a great place to start, you would have 2 paths there. Number 1, you need on-air reps, and number 2, you need to earn the respect and earn the trust of the people making those decisions, and also the organization itself. So working for the team you want to work for, or working for the league or something like that, being around the people that would ultimately be making those decisions is very important. So if you took an arena host job, or you took a job in the media department, or something somewhere in that organization, such that you would be interacting with these people, that would be beneficial. At the same time, making sure that you are getting those reps on the air, because you don't want to be seen as simply as an office employee, concurrently can do wonders for you. So where do you get those play-by-play reps? Okay, well, you can start my first hockey play-by-play gig was the Timmy Tyke tournament, which is very very young kids playing hockey. And Canada cares about hockey so much that we televise youths at single digit age playing hockey. Oh, this kid could be the next Gretzky. You see that? Look at those skating. Look at those crossovers. My goodness, they're excellent. Wow. You see that wind up from the blue line? It almost made the net. That's the potential right there.
These kids can barely.
That's how much that's how much we care. It's like how in the end, my favorite thing. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but my favorite thing is watching the kids play in intermission, because it's there's no organization. It's like a comet. Haley's Comet following the puck. They're just a long. Yeah, it's the best.
Plus, they do 30 on 30 at the same time. It's not even 5 on 5. So you're just
There's too many men on the ice.
And nobody plays goalie. There's one goalie kid sometimes, or is just standing there and just nothing's happening.
It's not, or there's not even a goalie. It's someone skating out who's just retreats back to the net. I guess I gotta stop pucks too. God.
I love it. Kids. They're hilarious. That's why you have a kid. That's why I have a kid, is for humor, for nothing else. Just for entertainment purposes, that is it. Make me laugh, child.
Have you guys seen the videos and the memes of babies are just drunk adults? They're so they're just so funny.
Truth.
I every time I watch a video of a baby, I think of okay, drunk adults that I know would definitely be that baby right now.
Yep.
John's so watching it, just sad face, oh,
that's me.
I'm gonna turn this off now.
But with less hair.
With a lot less hair, that's right.
At least you got a 1-up on the babies, John. Okay, you got the full head of hair.
So I want to know. Oh, go, John.
I'm so sorry. I'm cutting all you off. I'm
No,
doing a
it's
bad
your
job of
turn to
that
cut
today.
us off
You're
today.
good, you're good.
You've
But going along that, Arda, I feel like something you've really taught me, and I feel like you're constantly teaching people at the college that you own.
That's right. That's right.
I own a college.
Thank you. I feel like I should be like, yes, I own a college. Thank you very much. I should have like a whole like
not a
pompous
big
demeanor.
deal. Like,
I'm so sorry.
that you need to see everything as an opportunity, no matter what it is, whether that's Tykes hockey, you're doing something for season ticket holders where it's not even televised and you might just be on a mic, and whatever it may be, there could be that one person there that sees something in you. And that's what happened at Iona, right? Because you were basically you were a guest lecturer, and then you had the dean come up to you and say, hey, I think you should probably teach classes here, right?
Yeah, and that's different in the sense that like I'm at a point now that I love that stuff. I can impart wisdom that some people might find useful, especially if they're starting their careers, and I love that. So I'm like, of course I want to do this because first of all, it's helpful to them, but also makes me feel good, right? It makes you feel good when you're helping other people. So like, of course, that's a no-brainer. But one thing that I often say is, and people should definitely keep in mind is, you will either learn something very valuable on how to do something at a particular job, or you'll learn how not to do something. So even if something seems like a bad experience, it's not. You are learning something one way or the other. You are learning how to do something the right way or do something the wrong way or a different way that you may not want to do. That's why I never looked at a gig as a bad thing. Even if it was a low-paying gig or I was volunteering or it was several hours away, in that mode, I wanted that. I felt like I was improving in some way, shape, or form, and I just didn't care. Like I had this focus, I had this determination, I wanted it really, really bad. And so I was like, I'm going to be willing to put in the effort to get it. And oftentimes that's going to win out raw talent. If you are a supremely talented and if you put your effort in, you could be the very best announcer that ever lived, but you don't actually put the effort in, then no one's going to ever hear about you, right? And no one's going to ever know about you. So that's why, in my opinion, the hustle and the effort is even more important than the talent itself, because oftentimes, as we all know, I mean, I consider myself average at best, talent-wise, but especially coming into the industry, I was hyper ambitious. And oftentimes that was a little bit too much, but it worked out for me all right. But that to me is very important. That just like desire and never ever like being pleasant about it, but never stopping, because as we know, it's a very supply heavy industry. There's plenty of people that want to do on air gigs and jobs, right? So you have to be very diligent, and you have to, often it's timing too, right place, right time. What jobs are available? Where are they? Where are you in your career? Are you even at a point where you can entertain those jobs? Because sometimes a lot of people jump the gun and try to, because it's so infrequent, they feel like I have to act now, even if I'm not ready for it. Do you know what I mean? Like and everyone always feels like they are ready, but sometimes it's good to have, if you can swing it, to make that progression and learn things along the way, because it's not an easy business, as we know, right? It's not easy, but those that are passionate, those that have the drive, and those that are good people, like, be good to everyone, right? That's probably, I should have said that's the most important thing, because if you're a jerk, it's going to get around, right? Like if you're a bad person, that's going to get around, and and that's just only harming your reputation. Be good to everyone, every single person, doesn't matter who they are, every single person. That should be a rule in life. Just the fact that we have to say it probably says something about, the society and everything.
For
But like,
sure.
be
You're
good
not
to
wrong.
people, right?
I love it.
Don't be a jerk.
So true. John, you want to play a game?
I would love to play a game. We have a very, very fun game for you, Arda.
Okay.
Obviously, you're the esports guy, esports guru. A lot of us have played video games growing up. Some of us have turned it into a career. And the game that we're going to play is, I'm going to bring up different gaming systems.
Okay.
And you're going to either tell us the first game you think of or the first character you think of.
Okay.
You ready to rock?
Am I allowed to cheat? Can I Google?
Yeah. You can Google.
Oh, I can cheat. Wow. No, I'm just kidding. I won't. But I just want to know.
You
Just want
can't.
to know what the
Don't
rules
ask
are.
Siri either. No cheating.
Okay.
I know a couple of these, which says a lot. So I feel like you're gonna get all these so easily.
Abby, my goal now, if I ever go to Canes games, my goal is now to make you into a gamer. Like if there's ever a time that the four of us are in a room, like
So,
after the pandemic, we're gonna convert you.
So there's a little more background to my Call of Duty years. So my brother had a GameCube. I did like that was like the cool thing in high school was to like, play video games as a girl. Like, oh, I'm gonna be the cool chick that plays video games. I had a Nintendo 64 and I played Super Smash Bros, Pokemon, and the little jet ski game, like Wave Runner. And like I played it like all the time. And then we had a GameCube and GameCube. Is it Nintendo 64 or GameCube with Mario Tennis? I loved Mario Tennis.
Is that Wii?
Version.
I think, but I know
the
Wii
had
has it,
like Wii
but
tennis,
I didn't have a Wii. It was I think it was GameCube.
Might have been GameCube.
I do have like a slight gaming background.
I mean, this sounds like gamer talk to me. I don't know. I mean, I think it's in there somewhere. We just have to pull it out.
I think you can get me there. I think.
Yeah, we're gonna. This is gonna be our goal. We're gonna do a podcast in like a year and a half when we're like had enough time to hang out, and it's gonna be like, welcome to Abby's video game podcast, and we're gonna have like, all segments and everything.
I'm in. Oh.
I love
We've
it.
already Carlin is already on that trend.
I just want you to nerd out with me. That's all I want.
I'm down.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, that's it. We'll make
right,
Abby into a gamer, and then John will be like a WWE superstar, ring announcer. Like, we'll revisit this a year from now, and then boom.
Where does your inspiration come from? The podcast we did with Arda.
Yes, that's it. We get credit here. You know what would be funny if John did join WWE? I guarantee you, just to mess with him, they'd make him shave his head. I bet you they would.
That is evil. No,
I bet
that's
you
the
there'd be some
moneymaker.
storyline, right? There'd be some storyline where, like, an episode of Monday Night Raw, everyone loves John Root's flowing locks, and then some dastardly villain heel gets in the ring with a pair of shears.
Like,
and oh no, you can't do that to John's hair. No,
100%. The hair's gone.
Viral.
Yeah.
There's a few things I think of when I hear that. First off is hell no. But second is like, I think we're constantly thinking of like these would you rather questions. It's like, okay, like would you rather like just have this just mid-level job and you can keep the hair? Would you rather have your dream job and they shave your head? And that's when you start to think about like, oh man, I have to think about that. But it also makes me think of a story from this last season with the Sharks. I won't name any names, but it was probably one of the craziest parts of my career and working for the team there was we were really struggling at one point, and one of the players told our producer that like, hey, I think if we shave John's head live during a game, it would get the boys going. And it would just and I remember thinking
hockey
that
superstition's out of control.
It's real.
It's out of control.
And this was one of those players too that I'm like, I don't know if I actually have a choice here. Like
you don't.
Like if this is coming from the top, like I might have to do this.
Wow.
And you know it's real, John. Like it's not fake. It's a real deep-seated like, I swear if John just shaved it, I think we'd start turning things around here. Like it's like a genuine.
And it's like, am I the bad guy to say no? Like, where do I go from here?
Wait, so what ended up? Clearly, you didn't shave your head. You somehow got out of it.
Didn't shave my head.
And look what happened to the Sharks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I think there was definitely a money pool in this too. It was
awesome.
wild. Maybe I'll like be the source in an athletic article like years later about here's what really happened.
That's amazing.
The Sharks. But let's play the game. Let's do this. All right. Once again, the fun game. I'm giving you a gaming console and you tell me either a game or a character. First one you think of. Game Boy. Original Game Boy.
Tetris, 100%. That was the game that Tetris became a worldwide, or at least in North America, phenomenon, and helped Tetris become the highest selling game of all time. It came with the system, right? So like, For as much as people think of Super Mario Brothers for any Nintendo system, the Game Boy was definitely Tetris. And Tetris is such, like, I would consider, this is very random. I do play-by-play, and I'm hosting for the Classic Tetris World Championships that we were able to get on the Ocho this year, which was like one of my coups. It was like the greatest thing ever because I love the community. Actually, this right here is a Tetris. Like, you can see the Tetris placard signed by all the players there.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It's all signed by the players, yeah. So this game came out in 1989, right? And it's still played in this one tournament that gets like tens of millions of views on YouTube. This one tournament. And then you're asking yourself, why the hell would a game from 1989 get like 10 million views on YouTube? Where the hell is that coming from? It's because the game, especially when it gets like the super high speeds, you can't help but be at like the edge of your seat, and it like creates this visceral reaction in you where you're just like, oh my god, ah, ah, ah. Like if you've never seen it before, it's like the most gripping thing because it's like so frantic, and the way that they play is incredible. But anyway, that's like a whole other thing. But that's the game that you think the Game Boy version of that game that they compete on is definitely like the most famous game for sure.
Abby, you got the next one?
Yeah. All right. Nintendo Wii.
The Nintendo Wii, probably Wii Sports is probably the biggest one that people think of because like that was the system that you really started to use your arms and like the gyro motions and everything. So like Wii Sports, the boxing, the tennis, that's like the first game that most people will think of. Also, we had some good Mario titles on that one that kind of slid under the radar. But yeah, Wii Sports for sure is probably the one. The Nintendo Wii, Nintendo is never really, they're always like the side console that people buy on top of either a PlayStation or an Xbox.
Yeah.
Like PlayStation and Xbox are the ones that are like fighting over, like even the next generation, the one that's going to come out at the end of the year. You have the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, they're going to be clashing. Meanwhile, Nintendo's laughing on the side because they are refreshing their intellectual property like Mario, Zelda, all these Pokemon, right? They're just laughing on the side because they're printing money with how much they're able to make. Each system, they're refreshing the game so much, and they're so good and beloved that like no matter what kind of technology goes behind the system, nobody cares. They just want to play an updated version of these games. You know? So it's like same thing with the Wii. The Wii didn't have the best versions of those Mario and Zelda games or whatever, but they were fun enough that people bought them and it was successful.
Nintendo's like the Coca-Cola of gaming. It's like you'll just never, it's not going anywhere, and it's such a staple. And then there's like, you know, the Mountain Dews and the Pepsis, and like they'll always be there too, but like nobody just messes with Coca-Cola. It's like, we'll always buy Coke. Yeah.
It's a staple. Exactly.
Yeah. Guys, I had a pink Nintendo DS, and my favorite game was Nintendogs. Do you guys remember Nintendogs?
I don't even remember Nintendogs.
Oh, Nintendogs was the best.
You're acting like you weren't a gamer, and then you have all these stories about.
Yeah, something's up here.
So she's a gamer.
What's your Twitch channel, Abby? Are you going to stream Nintendogs with Carlin later?
Please. Plot twist. I'm Ninja. Just kidding.
You are Ninja. That's right.
No, seriously, Nintendogs was the bomb.
What is Nintendogs? I don't even know what it is.
Y'all don't? Okay, really?
No.
It was, you had like cute little dogs, and you just like took care of them, and you like walked the dog around, and you fed it, and you groomed it. It was totally like the girly like game. I mean, there was like really no point besides
like a
just
Tamagotchi.
Basically,
sounds like Tamagotchi. That's what I'm hearing.
But like little puppies. Yeah.
I'd play that now. Can I? Is that still around?
I don't know.
Nintendogs. I'm gonna look that up after this.
Look it up.
That sounds fun.
I mean, it sounds like having a dog, but
yeah, it was for like a. I don't even remember when I played that.
Sega Genesis.
I think so good.
I think of one character only. I'm gonna see if I can incept your brain with it. What do you think of?
I would guess you're thinking Sonic the Hedgehog.
Absolutely.
Sonic the Hedgehog was basically the cooler alternative to Mario. Mario was slow. Sonic the Hedgehog was fast. Mario was clean cut and had, you know, a very pleasant personality. Sonic the Hedgehog was impatient and acted
He's a bad
oftentimes
boy.
like a angsty teenager that was the bad boy. Exactly. Yeah. Sega Genesis at one point was the game that changed fortunes for Sega Genesis was actually Mortal Kombat. So Mortal
Wow.
Kombat
Yep.
has a very interesting history with that era. So Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo, that was that era, right? Mortal Kombat was a huge arcade game. People loved it. It was like so revolutionary for its time. Also very controversial because of how violent it was. The fatalities, the blood. We've never really seen it like this before. They went all out. It was crazy, right?
Finish him. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
What was that, John?
Finish him.
What was
Yeah.
that?
Sorry, I'm working on my WWE stuff right now. Sorry. go
Finish
ahead.
him. Yeah, that one. Finish him.
Yeah, finish him. Yeah, finish them. So the problem was that did not align very well with Nintendo, but Nintendo knew that the game would sell very well on Super Nintendo consoles. So what they did is they cleaned up the game. Instead of blood, there was sweat. So you didn't see the goriness. There were no fatalities. They just had these finishing moves where they would just pummel like pa 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 ha, I win. But it wasn't like the gory, like, oh my gosh, people loved it in the arcades. The Sega Genesis, on the other hand, did have all of that, especially if you put in a code. So what ended up happening was people ended up buying Sega Genesis consoles with getting Mortal Kombat so that they could get that version from the arcade. And that's when like the tide sort of shifted to Sega Genesis, because Sega had like faster games and more edgy product than Nintendo did. And so for a while they were in the lead, but then Nintendo just takes over like they normally do. Just release a Mario game here and a Zelda game there, and then all of a sudden Nintendo's like the best. How do you compete? So that's what I think of when I think of Sega Genesis.
Carlin, I Googled Nintendogs.
Is it around still?
It's not. I don't think so, but there's this YouTube video that says checking on my Nintendogs for the first time in 14 years. It's a YouTube video from like a month ago.
Oh my
You're gonna be a
God.
part of a new Facebook group.
So I bet if you can get your hands on a Nintendo DS, you can obviously play Nintendogs, but there's no way they like updated it.
I would
for,
love
like,
if they
any
brought
new
that
console.
back. I would
It's
so
so
play
cute.
that. That sounds so
It's literally a real-time pet simulation video game.
Or if they
Okay.
brought it into like Animal Crossing or something and made it like an expansion pack where you can have like an animal or something, and I don't know.
Do you guys play
Just
Animal
throwing it out there.
Crossing?
I do. I
Yeah.
haven't checked on my island in like over 2 weeks though. Since
Oh,
since
boy.
since I started playing Call of Duty, I've neglected my island. What about you?
Watch out for those turnips. No, I don't. I
Ugh.
do not play Animal Crossing. It's one of the few Nintendo games I do not play. I should, though. I feel like everyone does.
It's
I need to pick it up.
relaxing. It's really
I
relaxing.
feel like I don't decorate, other than the streaming setup, and that's only because it's on the air. Like, I don't decorate my place very much at all. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of like, if I don't decorate in real life, why would I want to decorate in a video
You
game?
wouldn't in Animal Crossing, yeah.
I don't know. It'd be funny. You know
What?
what we should do, Carlin? One of
What?
your future streams, the four of us should play Warzone.
I would love that.
I think
I
it'd
would
be
love that.
funny to
Like
see how
like
well.
me.
Yeah, it's free. It's free to
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, you can literally download
I'm
it.
in.
You have no
Count
excuse.
me
We
in,
actually should
baby.
do this. I think
Yeah.
it'd be funny. We should do it. Let's go.
I'm into that.
Leave John
I'm gonna
behind.
have no idea what I'm doing.
You're gonna love it, Abby. You're gonna be
It's
great.
fine.
You Nintendo spirit experience. You're gonna put
let's
straight
set it
to
up.
straight
I
to
think
the
that'd be
Call of
fun.
Duty.
We should
Yeah.
totally do that.
This is good because we've been talking about we want to get like we were like, oh, like how do we enhance our social media, right? Like let's do some Instagram lives that are like super casual, and we thought like, oh, let's do it with some of the previous guests we've had and see like what are they up to now. We could totally do that, like
We need to
in,
do a
you know, a few
Twitch.
weeks or something, and then be like,
Yes.
oh, we're doing this thing. Yeah, that'd be
Instagram Live is so March
cool. Show me what I
2020.
need to do.
No, it's
Tell me what
all
I need
about
to
Twitch
do.
now. It's all about Twitch.
I'm telling you, start a Twitch channel, start playing. I'm telling you, you
Yeah.
guys would crush it.
We need to get a Sidelined
I'd be
Twitch
in.
channel.
Yes, I'd
For
be
real.
in. Play some.
John, what's next?
I would say, well, it's tough. We're talking about Nintendo. And when we
Okay.
think of Nintendo 64, what's the first game or character?
Okay, I got a few. GoldenEye is the first game. And the reason I say GoldenEye is
Yep.
because that's like
Love
the
that
one game that never really got a true reboot. It has
Mhm.
been rebooted, but not the Nintendo 64. Like this is all the feels. This
Yep.
game was awesome. What the hell? Why the hell is Oddjob so shorter than everyone else, and you can't shoot him at eye level? Like what is this? Golden gun.
Yep.
Such a cheat. Like, come on. That game was excellent. One of the first, that's the game that most people started their like first shooting video game careers with or lives with. You know what I mean? So like that's That one's near and dear. And I also hear it's very difficult. Like there's so many licenses to worry about with that one. So I think that there's a lot of difficulty bringing that one back. Mario Kart for sure, because that one's lasted forever. And Mario Kart 64 was like, see,
My
Abby, that's
favorite.
another game you can play on
My
stream.
favorite.
See, you can play that on stream. Play
You're a
Mario Kart 8.
gamer.
Let's go.
We still play Nintendo 64 when we go home to my parents' house.
What I'm hearing is Abby's actually the biggest gamer of all of us.
Yeah,
I'm
seriously.
She just didn't want to admit it.
I
That's
just
what
play
I'm
Call
hearing.
of Duty. I'm a nobody.
This
Abby's
is like,
got,
every time I'm saying a game, you're just like, yeah, I love that game.
Got that one. Yeah.
I thought everyone played
She's
those.
been lying to us the whole time.
Right?
Oh my God.
My word, I love it. What else? Ocarina of Time, Legend of. I actually have an N64 right here. This is an N64 right here. This is my like little retro thingy.
Show the kids what it
little
looks
game is
like.
in there.
Yeah,
This
it's,
is an N64.
Yeah, so basically, I know, right? Oh man, what a boomer moment. Ocarina of Time is probably one of the best games ever made, I would say. Legend of Zelda. I would say Breath of the Wild is actually an even better game. That game, if somebody asked me, what is the one video game you would tell people to play? I would say Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is like, for many reasons, my favorite, but also top 5 greatest game ever made, for sure.
And that's N64 game?
That's actually a Nintendo Switch game, or actually came out on the Wii U. But Ocarina of Time is usually the one that gets debated. It's like, it's either Breath of the Wild or Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is the N64 game that people, the N64 was so revolutionary because it made so many leaps from what we knew. It was 3D. Mario 64 was 3D. We suddenly had all this whole new world of graphics and like gameplay to think of, and Ocarina of Time like led the way. Once you played that game versus where we were before, now you're thinking, wow, we are going to go so far, So that's why it's like so revered.
GameCube, since we're on the topic of consoles that I know.
Well, you mentioned Smash, right? So here's something funny. Smash Melee came out for the GameCube, right? That was the second Smash title. The first one came on N64, and then Super Smash Brothers Melee. That game came out in 2001, and it's so popular still today that there is a thriving esports scene still around Melee with big prize pools and people with like hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter that are known as esports celebrities that made their name and continue to make their name playing Melee and going to tournaments.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm telling you, they bring their own, and the best part is, to keep the authenticity of the game, they actually buy old CRT, like tube televisions, and carry them all to the tournaments and set them up in giant tables with the GameCubes, with their own controllers, so they can play this game as authentic as possible.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
This
then
is the coolest thing ever.
yeah, it's a thriving scene, and like 20, 30,000 people, even more, will watch these tournaments, especially the finals, on Twitch as they're happening. And there are several per year. They're very, very well supported by the Smash community. And then get this, the pandemic hits. Suddenly they can't play Melee against each other. People actually created, like, this is how passionate they are. They took the game and they made an online version so that it would be pixel perfect online, which is like extremely difficult to do. But the community cared so much that they made the game as perfect as they could, which is very, very, very good online, so they could play against each other online.
That's dedication.
Wow.
Yeah. And the people that are playing Smash Ultimate, which is the newest release on the Switch, the online play is so rough and so bad that now they're playing this modified Melee game because it's so clean. Like, that's how much the Melee community cares about their game from 2001.
That's crazy.
So we can bring the dogs game back for sure then, because if this is happening.
Oh yeah.
Nintendogs Esports confirmed. Abby's the first Nintendogs
I bet
Esports
I still
competitor.
have it.
Abby.
I bet I still have it somewhere.
Start a revolution,
I'm
please.
gonna go find it.
Oh my God.
My boyfriend won't let me get a real dog, so Nintendogs it is.
Here we go.
You got a dog. Haha, joke's on him.
I know,
Throwing
right?
some shade to the BF on the pod too.
Oh, I know. This is the most he's ever gotten shouts.
Original PlayStation.
Ooh, I wasn't a PlayStation guy. I was an Xbox guy through and through, I'll be honest.
Oh.
PlayStation
Okay.
had a lot of exclusives, though. Street Fighter is probably the biggest exclusive. God of War was a PlayStation exclusive. And that's how they win, too, right? Like,
Yeah.
Those consoles, like the firepower, the horsepower of those consoles and the technical specs, maybe one has like a slight advantage. Like the PS5 has a little bit of an advantage over the Xbox in the next generation. But honestly, it's all about the exclusives. Like if there's one series that you love that's on PlayStation, you're going to buy a PlayStation. If there's one series you love on Xbox that's not on the other, you're going to buy it. Like that's what it comes down to for those. In that battle, the battle is won through exclusives. Where can you play this game? But I will say this, though, and this is good for NHL fans out there. I truly believe that by the end of this generation, so like each console generation lasts like 7 to 10 years around. By the end of this generation, that's going to start holiday season this year, when the new systems come out, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, when those come out, at the end of their life cycle, we will have full cross-play of every game.
Whoa.
That's what I think.
And
that is my bold prediction. And we will clip this. So in 10 years, when this podcast is like #1 in the ratings on national television, we will come back to this clip.
Let's go.
Okay. And we're going to say, do you remember 10 years ago when this now retired broadcaster said this on this podcast? And you're going to play the clip, and then I will feel good about myself. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to be like, that was me. Yeah.
That is such a
Johnny,
bold
do one-
prediction. Oh my
Do
God.
one-
Because
do
I just
one
feel like
last
someone has to
one.
go into that. The
Anyway.
last one.
Yeah, because
would
he
probably-
brought it up.
Yeah, would have to be Xbox then.
Yeah, Xbox. That one. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely like your tastes, right? Like Sea of Thieves is exclusive to Xbox. But really, the cross-play is going to be the big thing. Like if I play NHL 20 right now, I can't play on a PlayStation against an Xbox player, right?
Yep.
But that's going to change. Like that, you can play Fortnite against anybody on any console. You can play Call of Duty against anybody on any console starting this year, right?
Yep.
You can't do that with certain games. Not with Madden, not with FIFA, not with especially the sports games. That's going to change, and that is changing. You're seeing games starting to change that. So. Xbox, I don't know. It was always a preference thing, to be honest with you. Just the controller felt a little better, and it was, I mean, maybe it was a little bit cheaper at one point as well, so that price might have been a factor there. But yeah, it's just a preference thing.
I like it. Well, I
Crossplay.
just love that we can throw
I love that.
anything out to you, and you're just like this, boom, boom, boom,
He
boom.
knows
So well
everything
versed.
about
I
all
know.
of it.
That's-
I
Well,
love
you know,
it.
John,
what's so
that's
fun.
called being a broadcaster, John. You got to roll with the punches. Okay, maybe you should learn a thing or two about how to act on the air and,
Man, I'm
and be
getting
in front of a
roasted.
camera. Hey, raise your hand if you've spent a weekend at the San Jose Sharks owner's mansion. I did that just to
full
dig
weekend.
at John. Just to dig at John.
Oh.
Just to dig at
Waiting
John.
for him to raise his hand. Wait, have you? Arda?
I had my hand raised. Actually, we did an event at the All-Star Weekend that John actually did a very good job hosting, so we should give him credit for that. He was the
Yeah.
That was
arena
like the
host for
first time
All-Star
I
game that
saw.
year.
I feel like that was when the first time I saw you, John. We didn't meet yet, but I was like, damn, this dude's pretty good. Like,
Oh, he did a great job at the All-Star game. So that
Thank you.
weekend, we did as part of the NHL gaming, NHL Esports, the owner of the Sharks was nice enough to open his doors to his palatial home that actually has a golf course on it too. It's like
my
a crazy,
God.
crazy home.
Place is incredible.
So the
Yeah,
home
it's-
has a golf course. The home isn't on the golf course. Did I hear that?
No,
right?
I think he created a golf course on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, it's its own zip code.
oh my
Yeah,
God.
exactly. So Scott McNeely, that's his name. Sorry, his name escaped me. So he has this. He opened his doors for us to do content there, like a lot of like video gaming content and fun. Like, hey, we're living in a cool house for a weekend. He also has a hockey rink in his house, by the way, which is the
What?
coolest thing ever. Yeah,
A
he's
full
got a
hockey
hockey rink, obviously a pool, and like. He has the best part though is he was giving us a little bit of a tour and he showed us his like jersey collection. Sorry, sweater collection. Pardon me. That's a big
Okay.
topic, as we know.
Yeah.
He has like hundreds and hundreds of jersey sweaters that he's either played because he's a big hockey fan, or he's collected from people. So he has like a bunch of like autographed stuff going back like decades too. It's like that's probably the most
That's
hockey
cool.
nerd part of it, to see his collection of stuff. And it's in one room, just a giant room that's like the size of my living room. That's just hockey stuff. It's like a snake of a snake rack of hockey jerseys. It's like the greatest thing ever.
It sounds incredible.
Nerded out. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, I just did that to dig at John. I didn't
thanks
want
for
to
the
seem
invite.
cool.
Have
I just
to.
wanted to dig at John and just
Start the podcast by digging at John, and we end the podcast by digging at John.
That's
We
the
always,
best way to
in
go.
John's defense, we always pump his brakes. So
Pump his
Okay.
Pump
tires.
my tires.
Pump his tires.
You mean we pump
We
the
pump his
brakes on
tires.
any
We
pump
don't
his
pump the
brakes.
brakes, John. We pump the tires. That's
guys
what she
have
means.
been doing too much car stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Oh,
it means so
God.
much to me. I'm the one person on this pod that needs it. I need people to.
That's what I meant by
pumping
the
my
pumping the
tires.
brakes, but I meant
tires.
pumping the tires.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
We give him way too many compliments about his hair, but it's
Yeah, you
is
should
well
stop.
deserved. So
For sure. For sure.
well, Arda, thank you so much for joining us. This was an awesome conversation. The advice you shared was incredible, and I am ready to go out and be a pro gamer. Let me just say.
We're gonna start your career. We're gonna make it happen. I do want to play Warzone at some point. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah,
For
no, this
sure.
was
Yeah.
great. I have a lot of respect for all of you individually. I know that I've talked to some of you more than others, but I feel like now it's gonna be all very equal. So I look forward to the next time. This is fun.
Thank you, Arda.
Thanks a lot, Art. I appreciate you.
Plot twist, I'm a gamer. I'm kidding. No, but seriously, I am feeling inspired. He like pulled out the like old roots, or I don't even know what you would call it, but I did, do some of that back in the day. So maybe secretly I could be really good at this going forward.
He
In all
unearthed the
seriousness,
passion.
though-
He unearthed the
Yeah,
passion
right?
in you. Yeah.
he saw it. He saw it. No, but in all seriousness, what an awesome guest this week. It was so cool to hear something a little different. To John's point, at the beginning, esports is something that's totally blown up right now as people are sitting at home, and the ability for them to launch, their careers and inspire themselves by just logging online, starting Twitch channels, getting on YouTube. It's all about content creation. And Arda was a prime example of doing that and, giving advice to kids that are trying to get started and do that as well.
And what's something that is always the common theme with everyone that we talk to, Abby and John, this doesn't happen without hard work. So I know when we're all trying to chase our dream jobs, it's not like we're looking for shortcuts, but we're almost looking for someone to be like, it's not that hard, right? No, it is. It is really hard. It takes a lot of hard work. And I forget the quote that he said exactly, but it's like the dream job doesn't happen overnight, or the overnight success took years the overnight success was years in the making, or something like that.
Yeah, it was a good one.
You know what I mean? And it's true with every guest that we have. So it's nice to hear that reiterated again and hear kind of Arda's own story of his own hard work. So loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And then Abby, I mean, he pulled out that gamer inside of you. I guess he pulled out the WWE host out of me.
Yes.
So that's where my career's going, I guess. But Arda is one of those guys that he sees something in people. So he's able to jump into a podcast, and I've known him for years, but some of us, we haven't met some of these guests until we kind of have them on the pod. But someone like Arda, they can see something in someone and be like, you can do this, you can do that. Here's how I can help you get there. Here's how I can encourage you to do that. And that's why he's a fantastic mentor to me. That's why we need people like that in the industry to push us to be better and see something in ourselves and know that it is a grind. We're not going to be an overnight success. We're not going to just send something out there in the like Twitter sphere or on Twitch or something like that, and it's just going to blow up and we're going to get exactly what we want. We got to work hard for that, and we need people like Arda around. So he's a big inspiration to me, and I'm sure ESPN is just thrilled to have him. And I would be thrilled if every single one of you started subscribing, started liking, following, commenting. Do that for us, please.
There it is. There it is.
Follow along.
The segues are my favorite.
I look forward
I
to
love
the
these.
transition. Yeah. Like,
I
how's he
live
going to
for
do it?
these.
How's he gonna do it?
I live for these, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And I live for you being a part of this Sidelined family. Carlin, Abby, and I love you so very much. And we will see you next week. Love you.